I'm just going to come out and be honest with you. I was in the middle of writing a video about whether or not Wizards of the Coast had made a mistake by not banning the Felidar Guardian Saheeli Rai combo during the ban and restricted announcements on Monday, when suddenly they emergency banned Felidar Guardian. For only the second time in the game's entire history, Wizards banned a card outside of the normal ban and release cycle. Felidar Guardian got the chop, and it has caused more than a bit of a stir. I'm Dennis from Windmill Slam. Let's talk about consumer confidence. All companies have to deal with consumer confidence to some extent. If I buy a can of Coke, I expect that when I open it up, there's Coke inside. Usually that's a pretty easy expectation to fulfill. Magic, or rather Wizards of the Coast, has a much more nuanced and complicated expectation to worry about. Each set has to shake up the standard format, has to introduce a world, has to forward the story, has to be interesting to draft, has to offer some cards for Modern, occasionally offer some cards for Vintage, and has to have a few fun cards for Commander. Imagine that everybody liked a specific flavour of Coke, but they were all sold in the same can. We all want Coke, but we want slightly different kinds of Coke. So when you open up a can, a lot of people are going to be at least a little bit disappointed. That's what Wizards of the Coast has to deal with. Also, I'd wager that the average person watching this video spends more a month on Magic than they do on Coke. People treat Magic as an entertainment product, sure, but they also treat it as an investment. If I pay a couple $100s for a standard deck, I expect to be able to play that deck for a while, win some prizes, and then sell it right before rotation for something similar to how much I paid for it. Nobody expects to open a can of Coke and find $5 inside, but we expect something very similar of Magic the Gathering booster packs, and the complicated economy is something that Wizards really has to try and deal with, even if they're not allowed to officially acknowledge its existence. Plenty of people, just look at Reddit or at Twitter, bought a Saheeli deck on Monday after the banned and restricted announcement, because they figured they'd be safe in doing so for at least the foreseeable future. Then suddenly, 2 days later, Wizards banned the card, claiming they have new data from the set's release on Magic Online, stating that not only did Amonkhet not weaken Cat Combo, it actually increased its win percentage. Personally, I don't entirely believe this. I think it's more likely they saw the backlash from the community, they saw people saying they were now bored with Standard, and they saw a decline in interest towards the upcoming Pro Tour. Wizards is then forced to choose the lesser of two evils. Do they have a boring couple weeks of Standard and a Pro Tour that the players are disinterested in? Or do they bite the bullet, break their promise a little bit, and emergency ban the card? While sticking to your rules and your set layouts and things is important, it's also important to know when to break them. Obviously, in an ideal world, Wizards should have just banned the card on Monday, or caught the combo during development, but given both of those things, they felt that this was now the best course of action. I saw someone online compare it to casting a spell and having your opponent use Force Spike or Daze to counter it. And then in your second main phase, you shamefully put the land you had in your hand into play. Should you have played that land earlier on in your turn? Yes, absolutely. Did you make a mistake? Yes. Does that mean you now shouldn't play your land at all? No. It feels bad, it's embarrassing, but sometimes it's the right thing to do, and this is a little bit similar. Sam Stoddard's M-Files article back on February 3rd talks about how they didn't notice the combo between Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian, and that in retrospect, if they could change it, they would make the card read Artifact or Creature rather than Permanent. This is certainly an embarrassing blunder, and while Wizards did want to push combo in Standard with Aether Revolt, this obviously wasn't the kind of thing they had in mind. This was probably a late change in development, and we actually can't expect Wizards to go back and check a card against every other card every time a change is made. But we do know now that they're probably going to be a lot more careful about combo cards in upcoming sets. Also, I think you're crazy if you don't think that Wizards is now taking a very, very good look at the way they play test cards internally during development. Regardless of how it happened, Wizards created a monster that they felt they needed to emergency ban. But the problem with emergency bans is that they do a lot to erode consumer confidence. Do you now feel safe putting down a couple $100s for a deck when Wizards can ban it whenever they want, willy-nilly? The answer is you probably should feel safe, honestly. These are pretty extraneous circumstances. Saheeli Cat combo was taking up an inordinate amount of the meta, and giving it tools in Amonkhet to combat Mardu vehicles just made it stronger. Wizards doesn't do this kind of thing very often, and they certainly don't take things lightly. Up until a while ago, they hadn't banned anything in Standard in a long time, and as I said, this is only the second ever emergency ban. Other card games on the market ban things comparatively way more often than Wizards of the Coast do. I think when we look back, this is going to end up being a blip in Magic's history, and an interesting tidbit the way Call Blade is. I don't think this is the way things are going to be moving forward. I don't think you're going to get standard bans all the time. From a spectator's perspective, this is actually pretty interesting. Saheeli Cat combo made up something approaching half of the metagame, and now it's just gone. The Pro Tour's in a couple of weeks, and we're kind of in the Wild West in terms of brewing decks. Now, Mardu Vehicles is still pretty strong, but those new tools for it do exist. Just because the Cat combo deck is gone doesn't make the other cards in it go away completely. I know that I'm personally much more excited to watch the Pro Tour now than I was this same time last week. Maybe Mardu Vehicles still will reign supreme. I mean, Gideon's still pretty good, but this is a freshness that you can only get by sweeping the rug out from everyone like that. And I think maybe it might be a little bit healthy to happen occasionally. Though I understand that it's difficult to feel like that if you bought a Saheeli Cat combo deck on Tuesday. It's not a great situation, and it sucks for a lot of people, but no one is angrier about this than Wizards of the Coast, trust me. And I think they're going to do everything they possibly can to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again, at least not for a very long time. Did you lose out by buying a deck just before it got banned? Are you happy the Cat combo is gone, or were you all about sending Infinite Guardians at your opponent? Do you think combo should be a bigger part of Standard than it has been so far, and that Wizards are too gun-shy about it, or are you happy to just march your Gideons to victory for the foreseeable future? Please let us know in the comments below, and until next time, I've been Denis from Windmill Slam.